Hey, well, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Ryan Murray. I'm a managing director at Greencastle Consulting. If you could just give us a quick background on yourself, that'd be great.
Yeah, so name's Will Jackson. I'm 24 years retired Navy. I retired in 2017. I started out as a dental tech in the Navy. I joined the Navy and went to boot camp in 1993.
Okay.
And I was started out as a dental tech. Dental tech and corpsman merged. And then I did that for 10 years. And then I went over to Navy recruiting. So I spent 14 years in Navy recruiting. So I was an officer recruiter, I was an enlisted recruiter, I was a nuke recruiter, I was a medical corps recruiter. So the list goes on and on. So I recruited everything in the Navy, right? Once I retired in 2017, I worked for a consulting firm, helping them with their recruiting and getting them up to where they could sustain it themselves because they were a new startup. And so I helped them get their recruiting side going. And then the opportunity came along and I went to Duke Energy. So at Duke Energy, I'm a senior talent acquisition partner. And I basically recruit veterans for Duke Energy. And it was a great landing spot because of what I did in the Navy and now what I do for Duke Energy, and it's a funny story because I was at a career fair right before I retired. And, everybody getting out or retiring, you go to a career fairs and be like, yeah, let me see what's out here. And Duke Energy and the Navy was right beside each other. Right?
Interesting. Yeah,
right,
ironic,
exactly,
right?
exactly.
That's awesome.
And I knew the recruiters at the booth, and then I'm talking to them, and then I went to talk to Duke Energy. They was like, ever thought about, coming? I was like, man, I'm a recruiter for the Navy right now. So it was a great transition, and when I went over to Duke Energy, I kind of shared that story because I did it for the Navy, and I do it for Duke Energy, and one thing I really love is talking to veterans and getting them as they're coming out of the military because I think we're a great landing spot, not just Duke Energy, but the energy industry as a whole.
That's awesome. So it seems like you have a plethora of experience, right? Just in recruiting in general. And your specific situation seems like a very seamless kind of transition, right? Like doing recruiting in the Navy, easily translatable, right? To, specifically with Duke Energy, but really any type of recruiting position. Do you have any like kind of advice or kind of like in your recruiting experience specifically with Duke? Obviously some of those skills don't directly translate as well as yours do. Could you kind of talk to us a little bit how you help to kind of guide, coach, mentor, or help those kind of veterans transition to, say, the energy sector?
Yeah, so, one of the challenges is when I'm at a career fair or I'm talking to a veteran, they're thinking that they don't have a fit in the energy industry because they assume that everyone has to be an engineer.
Right.
I'm not an engineer, so there's nothing for me, but that's so far from the truth. Right, we have a little bit of everything, and I used to say that when I was in the Navy, and I'm talking to kids, or I'm like, we got everything. You want to fly planes, you want to do this, you want to be a Navy SEAL. So it's the same thing at Duke Energy. We have everything, and I was at a career fair, and I had a Patriot missile tech from the Army. He was like, I don't know what I could do. So let me see your resume. It said Patriot Missile Tech, and it was all, acronyms, and I was like, if we can work on this, I think we could find you a fit, right? So I told him to leverage AI. Let's work on that resume, and he did, and now we have him as a combined cycle combustion turbine technician.
Oh,
and
very
so,
cool.
It's one of those things that just kind of think outside the box. We have meteorologists, we have real estate agents, we have lawyers, we have aircraft mechanics, helicopter mechanics, helicopter pilots, right? Drone pilots. So we have a little bit of everything. Not to mention the nuclear engineers as far as on the operations side and the maintenance side and things like that everyone thinks of when they think about an energy company. But so it's just one of those things that talk to someone, because network, use these mediums, LinkedIn, right? I was sitting in in the conference and I'm checking my phone and just all these messages from LinkedIn, and I try to respond to everyone because my main focus is veterans. If you're not a veteran, yeah, I'm skipping over you because there are plenty of recruiters at Duke Energy that focuses on the non-veterans, and it's just me focusing on the veterans. So, I'm doing everything that I can to talk to veterans and let them know that there's probably a home for them at Duke Energy, because once again, it kind of goes back to we have everything, and and just mentoring, right? So when I'm out, I'll have a Duke Energy pin on, or I'll have a Navy retired pin on, or something like that, and it's a conversation starter.
Yep.
Right. And so as I'm talking to, veterans, and they're like, oh, tell me, I was in the Navy, or I was in the Marine Corps, I was in the Air Force. Oh, you were? What are you doing now? I'm always recruiting. Right. So because during this conference, one thing that we learned is there's not going to be enough skilled workers.
Yep.
Right. For us, we're looking at building 12 new gas generation facilities. We're wondering where they're going to come from. And I'm over here raising my hand. I know. Right? So it's one of those things that I'm always going out, and I'm always kind of looking to build a pipeline for opportunity that we have.
That's awesome. And I'm being a little speculative in this kind of question, but it would kind of appear that, based on the conversation so far, that Duke would be, fairly passionate about hiring veterans. Is there something that, the organization, or even yourself, a little bit biased, right? Being former sailor, right? And I would call pseudo Marine as well, that they're looking for veterans to kind of fill certain gaps that the organization has? Or is there something specific about veterans that, kind of attracts the organization to them as opposed to just a, kind of regular civilian?
Yes, it's the teamwork, it's the safety. It's because one thing in the military, it's we're always preaching safety, right? And our meetings at Duke Energy, we start with safety. We want to know where everyone. Here's your exit routes. We want to know where's the AED. So it's all about safety. And coming from the military, you hear it every day, all day. It's about safety. It's about being accountable. And so when we're looking, that's what we look for, right? And it's a seamless transition from coming from the military, which you're, having that ingrained into you forever, after 4 years or 6 years or 24 years. It's about safety, knowing how to work on a team. That's huge, as a lineman. Because it's tough, right? You're climbing poles, you're grabbing electricity, you're grabbing hot wires, and so it's one of those things that everybody kind of brings it from the military, right? Everybody kind of brings it from, and when we're looking at that, they can fill a lot of roles. A lot, and not just me, where it was a straight seamless transition. We're looking at, I have one right now that we're looking at. She is coming in, she's an avionics tech on Reaper drones, but she's gonna be a combustion turbine tech, right? Because she has that background where, hey, I know how to, the circuitry, electricity, and components and electronics, and so she has that understanding. And so we can bring her in to do that. We can bring in to be a combined cycle operator, right? We can bring in to be a solar tech. And it's like, as I'm talking to the business units and I'm showing them these attractive candidates, it's like everybody's like me, right? And so there's plenty of opportunity, and we're always out thinking outside the box and looking for those service members, because they have the skills and they have the capacity to learn, right? Unlike when you go to a community college, you might do a program, it might be a 2-year program on electricity or being an electrician, right? For the military, you go to be an electrician school, it might be 8 months, right? But you're getting it, and they're taking those young men and women and running them through a rigorous program. They learning it in 8 months. Now you're going out, you're working on a ship as an electrician or a sub or whatever the case may be. And so they have the capacity to learn. And so when we're bringing them into Duke Energy, it's like, look, if you're an electrician in the Navy, you're going to pick it up at Duke Energy. So
that's awesome. So yeah, kind of if I'm picking up what you're putting down is, kind of recommendation to veterans out there is like, you might not realize how transferable your skills are,
Exactly.
right?
Yep.
So kind of taking that advice from you is, talk to various people, leverage, various, agentic AI platforms
yeah.
that exist out there, right? To see what those kind of skills are. Are there certain like, kind of talking more on the tangible or kind of concrete skill set, right? Are there other elements more in the intangible or abstract nature in terms of skill sets that Duke or really the energy industry might look for in veterans as well, as opposed to like that kind of concrete tactical knowledge of
Yeah.
like, say, electrical circuits?
Right. The leadership, the courage to do the right thing when no one is looking, right? We value that. I have a colonel right now that's in the Marine Corps, and he's looking for opportunity once he retires after a 26-year career. And at first, still, I'm like, man, what can I do with a colonel coming out of, out of Marine Corps?
Yeah.
But just because of his operational emergency preparedness services, he would be a great fit, right? I had a Navy SEAL, same thing. I'm like, emergency preparedness service, you can, perform tasks, just stressful situations. And so it's just that leadership, that courage, that know how to follow, but as well as know how to lead. Because a lot of times I think that not nothing against people who didn't serve. It's just one of those things that's just kind of ingrained in us. As whether you started out as a O1, second lieutenant, or if you started out as an E1, you're coming up through the ranks. You know how to follow, and then as you work your way up, you know how to lead. So it's just those things that you get out of the military that you can't get anywhere else.
Yeah, 100% agree with you on that one for sure. So did want to ask you about the SkillBridge program at Duke, if you kind of elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, SkillBridge is an amazing program. I've been at Duke for 3 years now, and when I started at Duke, no one had went through SkillBridge. This past year, we had 9 to go through, and we saved the company $306,000, right? Because I think that me as a recruiter that are recruiting veterans, I don't have the say so on who these hiring managers hire, right? So if I refer someone, they may get an interview, they may not. But if I find someone in SkillBridge, I can get them in at Duke Energy and we convert. They
That's
see
awesome.
the value at that point, right? Because I can, hiring manager can look at a piece of paper and be like, oh man, I don't know how he's gonna fit, But if I bring them in through SkillBridge, you're gonna see how they fit. And I have that control to bring them in and then put them in this organization. And like I said, we convert. So for me, it's just having that, being able to do that and not where, like I said, just having that power to put people in a position with SkillBridge and convert them. So this year we have an aggressive, when I say aggressive, strategy to bring in SkillBridge. So with regulated and renewable energy, we're looking at bringing in 15 through SkillBridge just for them alone, right? They're looking for a renewables tech, which is kind of a cross between a gas technician and solar technician. Nuclear is another great landing spot for us. Last year, I was able to finally get nuclear involved with SkillBridge, and now my emails they just keep coming from every hiring manager for nuclear. So we had 2 participate last year on the operation side in nuclear, and we have 2 right now that's on the maintenance side. And it just keeps going on and on. And the more people hearing about these success stories with SkillBridge, the more I'm getting emails and phone calls. Hey, Will, tell me about the SkillBridge. How does this work, right? Because if you don't know, SkillBridge is a program that allows transitioning service members their last 6 months of service to go work for a SkillBridge approved company, and as an intern per se, and to get that valuable experience before they get out of the military. And like I said, we've had great success with it. Now I have a lot of buy-in from senior leadership, and we're looking to convert as many as we can. So yeah, SkillBridge is an amazing program.
That's awesome. And just to elaborate a little bit more on the SkillBridge program, correct me if I'm wrong, but that would be because, again, Greencastle loves to leverage that as well. It is a phenomenal program. And you had mentioned earlier that kind of resonated with me, where sometimes it might be a little bit more complicated or complex to get someone, that's already transitioned in there as like a W-2. But with SkillBridge, right, it's at no cost to Duke.
Correct.
So it's almost like a no-brainer, right?
Exactly.
It's kind of like, hey, let's identify this individual skill sets, and maybe they can try a couple different roles, right? And see what the best fit is. Is there a methodology that you guys leverage for that for SkillBridge, or is it kind of like, are you sending that to a group of hiring managers and one like picks them, or how does that kind of process work for you guys?
A little bit of both. Yeah, it works a little bit of both ways. So as I speak to someone about SkillBridge, whether I get an email from a candidate who sees an opportunity on the DoD's website, or the TAP office may reach out, or just word of mouth, right? Because we've ran a successful SkillBridge program, and people see that we convert. It's not where they come in and get some experience and then they go find something somewhere else. No, you're staying at Duke Energy, right? So they're seeing that, and as I get the resumes, I don't know it all. There's still so many opportunities I'm learning about what we have at Duke Energy. So as I get the resumes, I'm thinking like, okay, this person might be a great fit here, or she may be a great fit there. But so I'll take that resume, I'll reach out to a specific hiring manager or a number of hiring managers. And then I also have a SharePoint where I can post some things, and then hiring managers will see it and say, oh, I'll be interested in taking that person, or I would love to interview them for an opportunity. And so generally those are the two ways that we kind of place SkillBridge.
Excellent. I love it. I believe we are coming close to time. However, as we like to say in the Navy and Marine Corps, any saved rounds or alibis or anything you'd like to leave the audience with today?
Yeah. So, if you're a company or you're a hiring manager and you're getting resumes and you get a veteran resume, take a second look at it, because a lot of times if you may not understand it, take a moment to understand it, because there are so many times where, because they don't understand it, they're passing up on great talent, because there's a lot of great talent out there coming from the veteran community. And I just urge hiring managers, just take an extra look or an extra second just to kind of take a look at that veteran resume.
I think that's fantastic advice too. I know we talked about leveraging AI. If you're the veteran that's transitioning, right, to help you kind of translate some of that language into more of the civilian kind of language, but having hiring managers kind of do the same thing, right, so that they're not missing out on talent, I think is a phenomenal point. Absolutely. Will, thank you so much for joining us today. Sincerely appreciate it. And we'll continue the conference from here on out.
Thank you. Sounds good. Appreciate
Pleasure.
it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Yep.